Hey there guys, what is going on today? Of course, we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 best guns in Cold War right now. This video was going to be a top 10 video, but I figured that if we did a top 10 video, that'd be basically every single gun in the game, and that wouldn't be much of a very interesting list. So we're going to cut it down to a top 5 here. We've got some of the best guns in the game right now, and we're going to include a class setup with each, and a little bit of gameplay of each weapon in the background. Just before we do get into our number 5 slot here, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it does very much help me out. About 80% of you guys watching this video right now, I see you there just sitting there not subscribed. So if you could take the time to hit that subscribe button, it really would help me out. So let's just jump straight into our number 5 here. So in the number 5 slot, we are going to go with the MP5. Even through its most recent nerfs in the latest patch, it did receive some noticeable nerfs. It did make it a little bit worse, but it is still a very, very good weapon in this game. Essentially, you get a fairly good fire rate, you get fairly good range, and it's easy to control, and it just absolutely shreds people. For the most part, you're going to be getting a 5 to 6 shot kill, 4 to 5 to 6 shot kill, depending on where you shoot people, where you're actually fighting against people. I think the optimal damage range for this particular weapon is just below 10 meters, and before the nerf, it was a little bit higher than that, which was pretty wild. Now, the MP5 does have relatively slow muzzle velocity compared to some of the other weapons on this list, which can make it feel a little bit bad, but for the most part, if you are sprinting around everywhere having a very good time, the MP5 will certainly do a job for you. If we are looking for a class setup for the MP5, you would want to go no further than this particular option. We'll start off with that sound suppressor, basically giving us that muzzle flash concealment, meaning we stay hidden on the minimap when we are shooting people and moving around. It allows us to be quite quick and stealthy, and this does combine with Ghost and Ninja as well to stay hidden. In the barrel slot, we are going for the 9.5-inch reinforced heavy barrel for that 18% increase to our effective damage range and an 80% increase to our bullet velocity. The bullet velocity increase really does help make the weapon feel a little bit more normal because it is quite slow by default, so this really does help carry it here and makes the weapon feel very, very powerful. In the underbarrel slot, we're going for that field agent grip for that 6% increase to our vertical recoil control, as well as the 20% increase to our horizontal recoil control. Essentially, this makes it an absolute laser beam, makes it very, very easy for us to hit most shots with this particular option. Essentially, just shredding people, really, really nice here. Then we're looking at the Salvo 40 round fast mags. This makes a very, very fast reload time for this particular weapon, as well as having a bit of extra ammo to fire. This does reduce our aim down sight speed, but we do have an attachment here in the airborne elastic wrap for that 30% increase to our aim down sight speed. So overall, we get a 5% increase. This is a nice little balance here, and we get flinch resistance, and we can drop shot people, which is very, very nice. I feel like the MP5, despite its most recent nerfs, is still a very, very good weapon in this game. Definitely top 5 for sure, because you can just sprint around everywhere, spray people down, and it feels very, very nice here. In the number 4 slot, we're looking at a weapon we haven't really given much thought to, and it is a bit of a sleeper hit at the moment. The Krieg 6 is basically just a laser beam. Like, it's a weapon that we've sort of seen the same style before, as it reminds me an awful lot of like the Kilo 141. It's not going to be the best assault rifle in really any category. Like, it's got decent damage range. You're going to get a 4 to 5 to 6 shot kill for the most part. Essentially, the recoil control, making it very, very easy for us to hit shots with this, is the real draw card. Essentially, like we saw with that no recoil AK-47 class we made the other day. This thing is an absolute laser beam. You can see in the gameplay in the background. We absolutely just beam people with this weapon. You get easy kills for the most part. You can pretty much just run around and pick off people at any ranges. Outside of, like, those longer distances when you are going to be fighting at sort of medium to long distances against snipers, you can struggle a little bit there because the time to kill is relatively a little bit slower than some of those other weapons and stuff like that. So it's one of those things you have to consider when you are fighting at those medium distances. But with the Krieg 6, you're very, very accurate, and that's all we're after here. So you can post up on different spots on the map and pick people off. As for our class setup here, we're going for the Microflex LED, which is a very, very clear sight picture. It reminds me an awful lot of the GI Mini Reflex from Modern Warfare, of course. Basically a nice little optic to start us off here. Then we move to the SOCOM Eliminator for that 85% reduction to our muzzle flash, which is really, really nice. Basically keeps us off those minimaps, and the actual sort of red indicator that pops up when we do shoot an unsuppressed weapon does fade very, very quickly with this. We also get a nice amount of recoil, making this an absolute laser beam. In the barrel slot, we do have the 19.7-inch range with that 100% increase to our bullet velocity. You can take like 150% increase to your damage range, or a little bit of increase to our damage, which is not really a great option, but the Ranger barrel does give us an increase to our bullet velocity, which is a very, very good stat in this game. Then we move to the underbarrel again. Field agent grip with that recoil control, meaning we can hit our shots very, very easily with this. An absolute laser beam we get with this option. Then lastly, the airborne elastic wrap again, 30% increase to our aim down sight speed, flinch resistance, and of course aim while going prone. So the Krieg 6 is a very powerful option in this game. It's a little bit of a sleeper hit, as I said. Not many people are using this thing, but it is a very, very easy to use weapon. In the number 3 slot, we have the AK74u, which has the highest bullet velocity out of any of the SMGs. It does have a relatively short sort of damage range. It is a little bit less than some of the other SMGs, but I mean, if you are sprinting around everywhere, you get that high bullet velocity, people are going to drop no matter what you do. We can basically sprint around with this thing, absolutely beam people. That bullet velocity really does carry this particular weapon here and means we can hit our shots, and it does feel very, very good here. As for our attachments, this is a fairly high level build. We're looking at the KGB Eliminator muzzle for that muzzle flash concealment as usual. Staying off of those UAVs is very, very important. And of course, that 17% increase to our vertical recoil control, making this thing way more accurate than it is at the start. The barrel slot, we are going for the 10.3-inch Task Force barrel for that 8% increase to our damage. I don't actually think this does impact our shots to kill or anything like that. And the recoil control can get a little bit out of hand with this, but we've got attachments to sort that out as well, as we mentioned earlier. But the effective damage range increase and of course the bullet velocity increase is of course very, very nice here, making this weapon an absolute powerhouse in this game. You absolutely shred people with this particular barrel. With the underbarrel, again, Spetsnaz grip, which is very, very similar, of course, to the other grips that we've mentioned. Vertical recoil control, horizontal recoil control, meaning we are very, very accurate with this particular weapon. Then you combine that with the compensator that we talked about earlier, is a very, very nice option in this game. Then the magazine, VDV-50 fast round mags for a very, very fast reload speed, as well as giving us the maximum amount of bullets to fire, which is, of course, very, very strong in this game. Does lose a little bit of aim down sight speed like the rest of the very powerful magazines in this game, but again, GRU elastic wrap, 30% increase to aim down sight speed is a 5% increase overall, and of course flinch resistance and drop shotting people is super strong in this game. So the AK74u is probably the best SMG at the moment now that the MP5 did get those nerfs, but it's still a bit of a contest and it's up to you which one do you prefer here. Our number 2 slot here is going to be taken up by 2 weapons here, of course, the M16 and the AUG. Now, it's very, very hard to split these 2 weapons, and I can't really decide which one is better just yet. We're probably going to have to take a more in-depth look and basically do one of our versus videos, the AUG versus the M16. So hopefully we will be able to make one of those very, very soon here, of course. Because these weapons are so very similar, we can talk about them in basically exactly the same way. All you are looking for is those 1 to 2 burst kills. Essentially, these weapons are actually currently broken in this game. Essentially, you can get a 1 to 2 burst kill basically faster than anybody can actually kill you with like an automatic weapon. The only thing that sort of competes with you is like close range weapons. Like if somebody gets up in your face with like an MP5, AK74u, they really should be able to take you out before you can finish them off. But for the most part, you're just going to get 1 burst, 2 burst kills. So this could be considered like the number 1 slot, but I mean, burst weapons aren't really for everyone, so they do take a little bit of getting used to. It sort of depends on how you want to play with them. But we'll start off with the class setup for the M16. This is the ideal setup for me. This is what I'd go for. Starting off with that mill-stop reflex. The iron sights on this particular weapon are fine, but they're not fantastic, so I would skip over and take the mill-stop reflex for a very clear sight picture. Then you move to the barrel. We want that Task Force barrel or the match grade barrel. It's kind of difficult to choose between these two. You do get that increase to our damage here, which is of course very, very nice range and of course bullet velocity. But the match grade barrel does give us a 150% increase to our damage range, which they did recently nerf. So it's kind of up to you what you do want to choose here, and you can basically take your pick depending on how you want to play the game. Then we move to that under barrel. As I said, we want that recoil control. This does give us a 10% increase to our vertical recoil control, as well as a 40% increase to our horizontal recoil control. So this is a very, very good option for making us very, very accurate with this particular weapon. So if you do choose that larger barrel for that reduced sort of recoil control, take the Field Agent foregrip as well. Then the handle that we go with, airborne elastic wrap, flinch resistance, aim down sight speed, and aim while going prone. Of course, super, super strong option in this game. Basically one of the best wraps that you can put on pretty much any weapon in this game. And then lastly, the Raider pad. We want that sprint to fire time increase of about 30%, a very, very nice option here. And we're going to be aiming down sight most of the time. So a 40% increase to our aim walking movement speed is a super powerful option here. We zoom around the map while we are aimed down sight, so this is a good option as well. The M16 is a very powerful option in this game, and it's sort of very, very comparable to the AUG, which we're going to talk about just now in terms of a class setup. So for the AUG, we're going with a very, very similar build here. We want that mill-stop reflex, again, essentially giving us a very clear sight picture. If you don't like that, you can just take the stock optic on this particular weapon and then choose another attachment. But I do prefer the mill-stop reflex. It allows me to play more fast-paced and sort of those close quarters areas a little bit easier than a big old 2x scope. Then the barrel, again, this is of course up to you. If you want to choose the match grade for that increase to our damage range, that's up to you. Damage or fire rate, it's not a super great option that does reduce our damage range, so we do want to probably take the Task Force barrel where possible. That 19% increase to our damage, as well as the 50% increase to both damage range and bullet velocity as very, very good options here. Then that underbarrel Field Agent foregrip, again, 10% vertical recoil, 40% horizontal recoil, super powerful option in this game. Then the handle, same as before, 30% aim down sight speed, flinch resistance, and aim while going prone. and then the radar pad again, sprint to fire speed, aim, walking, movement speed. Now, as I said, it's really hard to split these two weapons. I really don't know which out of the M16 or the AUG is better. I'm going to have to take a better in-depth look and test out all the statistics that matter. It's a good thing we have those detailed numbers to help me out here, but the AUG and the M16 are number 2 weapons for me. And in my opinion, the number 1 weapon in the game at the moment, as you can see on screen, is of course the AK-47. Now, I know a lot of you are like, the AK-47 is just a good option, it's not the best option, but I mean, I've been intrigued by this no recoil build for a little while now. Basically, this weapon can have negative recoil, which is hilarious. So instead of the gun bouncing up, it actually bounces down, which is kind of goofy. So it's one of those options that you can be really, really accurately. Very, very similar to the Krieg 6 that we talked about earlier. But the AK-47 does feel a little bit better in my hands. This is just how I feel. The AK-47 might not work for you. You might be an M16 fan, but the AK-47 is my favorite gun in the game at the moment. So this is the class setup that we would go here. This is the no recoil class that we presented the other day. We start off with that KGB Eliminator for that 85% increase to our muzzle flash concealment, meaning we stay off of those mini-maps and stuff. The vertical recoil control as well is a nice little bonus here. This starts off our no recoil variant. Then you get that VDV reinforced barrel for that 100% increase to our effective damage range, as well as a 40% increase to our bullet velocity. Then we move, of course, to that underbarrel Spetsnaz grip. You already knew this was coming. Vertical recoil control increase, as well as the 20% increase to our horizontal recoil control. Super powerful option for this particular weapon here. Then that magazine, the VDV 50 round mags, actually do give us a reload speed of about 0.7 seconds, which is less than a second. Ridiculous reload speed here, plus 50 bullets to fire is of course super nice. You do lose that aim down sight speed, but again, we have that covered with the GRU elastic wrap, the 30% increase to our aim down sight time, flinch resistance, and of course aim while going prone. AK-47 with this particular build is my favorite class setup in the game right now. Negative recoil is absolutely goofy as hell. Like when the bullets bounce down instead of up, it just feels really nice. It looks pretty funny, and you can be super accurate with this thing. One of the best weapons in the game for sure. The MP5 of course did get nerfed, and if it didn't get nerfed, it would be at the top of this list, but I mean the AK-47 is a good replacement for now. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching this top 5 list. Of course, if you do want to see more top 5 lists and other videos, of course, best class setups, everything that we got going on at the moment, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it does very much help me out. We are of course looking for 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which is a pretty lofty goal. I reckon you can help me get there for sure. So thank you, as I said, for watching this one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!